Hello, STEM Guitar Summit. My name is Alex Mall, and I'm going to explain what a canjo is and how I make them with my seventh grade students. Here we go. So, I've been teaching 26 years now, and about half of that's been middle school level, and for the last 11 years, I've been a seventh grade tech ed teacher. I had a parallel career in the Navy Reserve Seabees, so I'm pretty well versed in most aspects of construction. And I've been a STEM guitar instructor since 2016. Also helping me out on this presentation is my eldest son, Ethan. He's been with me from the beginning. I started building guitars with middle school kids about 11 years ago, and he came on board probably just about a year after I started. And he has quite a bit of music theory training, more than I do, certainly. I have a little. I know just enough to be dangerous, and he's much more of an expert, and he has some pretty neat ideas, which you'll see soon. Let's go start. Okay. So the canjo is a fretted single stringed instrument. So maybe you've seen something similar um, that didn't have frets, and that's called a diddley bow. But we call this a canjo, and it just because it uses some sort of a can as a resonator. Any kind of can. Any can works fine. So we got the spam Joe here. Yeah, there's a spam Joe there also. And my prototypes use tobacco cans, which they work really great as well. It's because they're kind of flat. You can pick these up at antique stores all day long for $5 to $10, depending on how rare the brand is. We'll talk more about this three-string version later, and but yeah, pretty much any can works. We even do soda pop cans. They're a little bit more of a pain because they're obviously a lot softer and more delicate, but they do work. So if a kid had, is really into Monster or Red Bull or whatever, that's fine. You can make it work. It's just probably not ideal. Tool kits. So I made these for one of each of my six table groups. So it depends on the class period. I have anywhere from 4 to 6 kids at a table. Obviously, four is a lot better because you can see most of the commonly used tools, there are four of them. So this foam stuff, this multi-layered with the different colored in the middle, this is called Kaizen foam, and it's available from fastcap.com. Fastcap is a very innovative company right here in Washington State. And to fit in my laser, I cut these down to 12 by 24 just so they'd easily get into the laser engraver. And so total size of the foam is 24 by 24. And then I just nailed together quick half-inch plywood so I could stack these. So I stack these, for storage. So I've got 6 high. I just have to pull out the glue bottles. So I mentioned the laser cutter, and it obviously took some time, but I also did this for the other middle school as well. So we had 12 toolkits. So it ended up being worth it. No, I don't want to do that. Just, sorry about that. And the way it wasn't real high tech. All we did is I'd lay out the tools on top of the foam and where I wanted them, and then I just took a picture, and then we opened up Adobe Illustrator and made an artboard that was 12 by 24, and then just resized that photograph on top of that, and then just traced around the photos of the tools, and then I had to experiment with settings, of course, and then as soon as you cut the outline, then you just dig in there with your thumb and rip it out. Each layer is probably less than a quarter of an inch thick, and so there's several layers, but pretty easy to get the hang of it. And so these are the hammers we use for fretting, a couple of scratch awls for marking. These are fret end nippers from Fast Cap as well. And then I've since added, this is a slotted screwdriver, and I've since added at least two per kit because they need that to install the brass screw that acts as the nut. These are StewMac fret end files. These are depth gauges, which you'll get a better look at later. Some cheap Irwin pull saws, some #1 Phillips screwdrivers. Each kit has their own little bottle of Tight Bond 3. And these are palette knives that I got off of eBay. Not eBay, sorry, Amazon. And then these are just Nicholson triangular files. And I'll try to remember to explain why we have triangular files in there as well. And this, it was well worth the time. I have not lost a single tool yet, and very minimal damage. I'd say the biggest thing is probably the palette knives and getting the kids to clean off the glue before it dries. That's been really my biggest problem. But I don't know, when it's presented like this, the kids realize, oh, these are important, and there's some specialty tools here. I mean, to take care of them, and they do. When it's cleanup time, it's very obvious for everybody to see if anything's missing, and make sure it's located and put back where it belongs. So I can't recommend this enough. I really think it's essential. I don't know how else you'd do it that was anywhere near as effective. Okay. Fretwire. Initially got it from StewMac.com, but StewMac does a 10% educator discount, which you guys probably already know. But there's this other company that kind of specializes in more like the Canjos and the cigar box guitars and that sort of thing. It's called CB Giddy. So cbgiddy.com. You have to enroll with them, and there's a couple of steps you have to go through. But once you're in their system, it's 25% discount. So it's the cheapest place I know of to get Fretwire, and they claim that it comes from the same place that StewMac gets theirs, which I would doubt that. You need some pull saws that are about 20 thousandths thick. It's a good slot width for the fret tangs. And I've found that most of the Japanese style pull saws are right around 20 thousandths thick, including those inexpensive Irwins, which you can buy on Amazon for about $12 a piece. Hammer. I like to use the copper side of the hammer because the fret wire is made of nickel silver, which is mostly copper with some tin in it. So it's harder than copper. So that's why I like to use the copper side of the hammer. Flush cutting end nippers, those from Fast Cap. I think you might get a quantity discount if you order direct from Fast Cap. You can probably get them on Amazon as well, but ordering direct from Fast Cap, I think they're around $16. And Fast Cap claims that they're safe to use on stainless steel fret wire, which is much harder than nickel silver. So they've held up great. They work great. They've got kind of a compound action, and they are actual flush cut end nippers. The guy, Paul Akers, who started Fast Cap, he spent some time working at Taylor Guitars. So he is a luthier himself and knows what he's talking about. And he has a few tools that are kind of aimed at the luthier community, but especially these flush cutting end nippers. Fret end files are kind of nice from StewMac. Those are about $15 a piece. Triangle files from Amazon, palette knife, from Amazon. I think those are number ones. Um, Swiss file if you're going to clean off the fret ends, and steel wool wax, etc. Right. So installing fretwire, most of you probably, I'm not going to spend much time on this because I'm sure everybody's watching this understands how to install fretwire. But the slots there, they're just, we lay out the fret positions using Adobe Illustrator, and then we just mark those with the laser engraver, and then take the handsaw and cut the slots by hand, but following the laser marks. Depth gauge, I'm sure you've all seen this before. It's just you need to file. I take a triangle file there to file that part of the tang, and then just bend it in kind of a hockey stick shape. And then you need to file the barbs off. That's kind of the biggest pain in the butt, is getting those barbs completely filed off, so that that the tang will drop right into the slot. And then this one just has tape on it and colors, just to make sure that no one throws it away thinking it's just a scrap. I think I went in, and most of them I dipped in that tool dip, that vinyl stuff, plastic dip, to put a little handle on it to make sure everybody recognized that was a tool. So this is how I do it. This is how I teach my kids to do it. Bucket of water. Use the palette knife. Well, actually, I wipe down the fretboard first to kind of swell that grain, and it helps clean up the glue later. So wipe down the fretboard with water on a rag, and then use the palette knife to get water in the slot because it helps lubricate it. And then fill the slot with Titebond. That will mostly to fill any voids that are in there. And I like Titebond 3. Um, so this is kind of experimental, and I'm not. I haven't done this with kids yet. I might, because I'm thinking I'd like my students to do like 2 for 1, build 2 Canjos at the same time, and then we would donate the second one to our elementary music program. We have 7 elementaries in our district, and I've already asked the elementary music teachers if they'd be interested in having class sets of instruments. So that'd be about 210 Canjos, and I think there's a pretty good chance that we'll do that next fall. But so I just experimented with, you can see over here, fretting, 2 at once. This one's wider. This is the 3-string version, which again I'll talk about a little bit later. And this is also a special one. This is actually pentatonic scale, and I just disabled the brake on the saw stop, flips it upside down, and ripped it. And this is a top of the line Amana carbide blade, and you didn't hear a difference, you didn't feel a difference. It ran right through it like it was nothing. So no big deal. Um, you do have to, depending on what kind of a tuner you choose to use, you may have to thin down the headstock to get a little bit of a break over the nut. Okay, so this is obviously teacher only. I would never let a middle school kid do this. So this is a horizontal belt sander, and this is how I just have the kids, when they're ready, bring them to me, and I'll flush the ends of their frets. I'll just flush them, and then I'll just tip it up, put a real quick bevel on it. It takes literally seconds to do that for each kid. So I just decided to do that. And then roll the fingerboards and fret ends. You can use the little file from StuMac. You can use 240, 320. And then I go through the steel wool. I like to use Howard Feed and Wax. And we glue the cans on with E6000 adhesive and some number 4 Phillips screws to mount the can. Oh, so struggles. Handsaw usage. Most kids have never used a handsaw, and they really struggled. This happens quite a bit, where the saw will jump out of the slot, and they will just cut whatever kind of a slot. And that's the nice thing about the Canjo, though, being a single string right down the middle. The center of this fret, even though it's crooked, the center of the fret is more or less where it should be, and it still kind of plays in tune. at least for the tunes that they're playing. So it still works. So this is red alder, and I'll put whatever the I get them S2S from the lumberyard, and they're random widths from 4.5 inches to 10 inches, and so I'll just put that board in the laser, run it, and then I'll rip. Each individual Canjo stick is 1.25 inches wide, and so you inevitably end up with something at the end that's 1 inch wide or less. And at first, I wasn't sure what to do with that, but then I realized that's perfect for practice. So before we give them a Canjo stick, we have each kid practice cutting a couple of slots, following, kind of chasing that laser line. Using a hammer can be a real struggle for some kids as well. And they bash the what out of them, and they'll even drive the crown into the boy. It's amazing. So it's nice to have non-examples so they know what not to do. And this, boy, I'm running out of time quickly. It's funny how time flies. Scale. So fret spacing calculators, you can get these online. They're all over the internet. And this particular one is on the CB Giddy website, or at least it's linked from the CB Giddy website. You can put in your scale length and what scale. Most Canjos are diatonic, which means that every single note you play is in the major scale. You can't play a wrong note, which is awesome for beginners. We do add one blue note just because, so that half step is useful for some songs. Some even simple tunes will require that half step. But otherwise, you can play, when the Saints go marching in, and all the classic folk songs you can play on a Canjo, on a diatonic. Pentatonic. So this is fun. I don't think we have time, but so this is the pentatonic scale. So it's the blues scale, or also the rock scale. So it's kind of cool that every single note is in that blues scale. So that's kind of fun. And then I don't know how well that's going to translate. So we're just going to move on to the next slide. We experimented with adding piezo pickups, and they kind of worked. You just can't plug it into a guitar amp. It needs to be a keyboard amp or like a PA or something. The output seems to be too hot. You could also obviously put a resistor in there or a potentiometer, and crank down the output. But those you can get those piezos cheap on Amazon. I got a dozen for $7. So this was really fun. Again, this was the pentatonic Canjo was Ethan's idea, as was the Phrygian dominant sitar Canjo. These two strings are drone strings tuned to F sharp, and the lead string is tuned to C sharp. When I picked it up, I started noodling around, and within a few minutes, I was playing "Painted Black" by the Rolling Stones. So here's a little bit of a demo what it sounds like. Really awesome. Anyway, yeah, a lot of fun. Fun to jam. So there's your Phrygian dominant scale. Tobacco cans, obviously, can't really use those at K-12. I would say in most places. Spam cans work great, and we're always on the lookout for alternatives. Possibly old oil cans if a kid is willing to seek those out. But yeah, there are still spam meters out there. I'm surprised. Besides my own father. So it's kind of that generation. So I tell the kids to hit up their grandparents for those spam cans. And I look forward to answering any questions you have during the the live stream panel discussion thing coming up here soon. So I think I went a bit over, but I'm going to suggest that we stream this video on YouTube at 1.25 speed. So thanks all, and I'll hope to talk to you soon.